William Matthew Tilghman Jr., known by all as Bill Tilghman, had led an incredible life. He had been a buffalo hunter, an Army scout, deputy sheriff of Ford County, Kansas, city marshal of Dodge City, a saloon owner, the first city marshal of Perry, Oklahoma, a deputy U.S. Marshal, Oklahoma state senator, and police chief of Oklahoma City. But perhaps most importantly, he was a member of the Three Guardsmen of Oklahoma. The Three Guardsmen of Oklahoma was a title first given to Bill Tilghman, Thomas, and Chris Madsen by the outlaws they pursued. This legendary trio had the thanks of the entire state of Oklahoma for helping to clean up the state from the crime and outlaws that threatened it. So it was no wonder that the people of Cromwell, Oklahoma, chose Tilghman to be the city marshal there to bring law and order. By now, Bill Tilghman was 70 years old, and Cromwell would be the last place where he would wear a badge. On November 1st, 1924, Tilghman was shot and killed by Wiley Lynn, a drunk and corrupt prohibition agent. The following are two newspaper accounts of the murder of Bill Tilghman in the small town of Cromwell, a tragic end for such a legendary lawman. From the Okemah Ledger, Okemah, Oklahoma, November 6, 1924. Bill Tilghman, Cromwell police officer murdered. Shot to death by Lynn, a federal prohibition officer, as a result of jealousy in front of the famous Murphy Hall. Although Wiley Lynn, prohibition enforcement officer of Holdenville, who surrendered last Saturday night and confessed to the murder of Bill Tilghman, veteran Oklahoma peace officer, in front of the Murphy Dance Hall at Cromwell, refused to give any explanation for the murder. Signed statements by persons who were in the car with him declared that the shooting was the result of enmity between the police officer and Lynn. W.L. Thompson, Rose Lutke, and Eva Caton, who were arrested with Lynn when he surrendered, signed a statement Sunday stating that the shooting was the culmination of enmity between the police and federal officers, according to the county prosecutor at Wewoka. The prosecutor declared that the way the story was told to him, each charged the other with being crooked. Lynn was held in the county jail at Holdenville Sunday by the federal authorities and will be turned over to Sheriff J.A. Doyle of Seminole County Monday morning. He will probably be taken to Wewoka and be given his preliminary hearing immediately. Tilghman was shot and killed on the street of Cromwell at 10:15 by Lynn, who escaped in an automobile before he had been identified. Tilghman was shot 3 times in the chest at close range and died almost instantly. Slayer carried 3 guns. Lynn, according to citizens who witnessed the killing, carried 2 .38 caliber automatics and a .44 caliber revolver. His first gun torn from his grasp by a citizen who rushed to the defense of Tilghman, and his second grabbed and forced aloft by Tilghman. The gunman jerked out a third weapon, held it against Tilghman's chest, and pulled the trigger 3 times. Then he backed away to a car nearby in which 3 companions were waiting, and jumping in, sped away. The killing, according to eyewitnesses, happened with such rapidity that those who saw it were so dazed they allowed Lynn to escape. W.E. Thurman, druggist, and Hugh Sawyer, school commissioner, who grabbed away the murderer's first gun, were the closest eyewitnesses. Tilghman, according to Thurman, was standing in the door of a restaurant in the front end of the notorious Murphy Dance Hall when a Ford car containing 2 men and 2 women drew up at the curb. Lynn got out and, approaching Tilghman, drew a .38 caliber automatic. Sawyer, who had observed this maneuver, leaped across the sidewalk and grabbed his wrist, wrested the weapon from his grasp. In the meantime, Tilghman moved to meet the attack, and when the tall man drew his second weapon, a .44 caliber Colt pistol, the chief grabbed it and shoved it overhead while he reached for his own gun. But Lynn was too quick for him, and reaching around with his free hand, he jerked out his third weapon, which was a second .38 automatic, and pressing it against Tilghman's chest, fired 3 times rapidly. Tilghman collapsed to the sidewalk, dying almost instantly, and while his friends rushed to his side, the murderer made his getaway. Both Bill Tilghman and Wiley Lynn were well known in Okemah. Mr. Tilghman has shown his motion pictures at the local theaters and has been in Okemah a number of times. Lynn has made a number of raids on stills in Okfuskee County the past year, and was in town Saturday as late as 6 o'clock and had with him 2 women and another man. Lynn parked his car near the sheriff's office and was in the office a few minutes before he left town, and told them he was on his way to Okemah. Tilghman was an old-time peace officer who had the respect and admiration of the people of Oklahoma, and was one of the few old-time pioneer officers yet alive in the state. Muskogee. Bill Tilghman's often expressed desire to die with his boots on, in the true frontier style, was familiar to Sheriff J.F. Bud Ledbetter of Muskogee, old-time friends of the veteran officer and bloodhound on the trail in Oklahoma Territory's early days. From the Latimer County News-Democrat, Wilburton, Oklahoma, November 7th, 1924. Peace officer is shot down and killed by enforcement officer. Lynn claims he shot Tilghman in self-defense following scuffle near Cromwell Dance Hall Saturday night. Holdenville, November 2nd. While Wiley Lynn, federal prohibition officer who shot and killed William Bill Tilghman, veteran Oklahoma peace officer, at Cromwell Saturday night, claims he shot in self-defense. Many citizens of Cromwell, Wewoka, and Holdenville believe otherwise, and a sweeping inquiry is underway here in an effort to bring the true facts to the top. Lynn is in the Hughes County Jail at Holdenville, held on a warrant charging that he shot and killed one Bill Tilghman while acting within the scope of his authority as a federal officer. Enmity between Lynn and Tilghman is admitted on all sides in the Cromwell territory. It is stated by many persons here that they believe Lynn was in league with the underworld element in Cromwell, and that Lynn had been overlooking bootleggers to a certain extent. It is claimed that Tilghman knew of this alleged condition and was about to make a strike to break it up when the climax came in the form of the killing. The warrant under which Lynn is held in Holdenville was issued by Park Crutcher, United States Commissioner, who stated Sunday afternoon that Lynn was going into Murphy's place at Cromwell to make a search for whiskey, upon the authority of a search warrant issued by him in Holdenville. Enmity is admitted. Although admitted enmity existed between Tilghman and Lynn, the fatal scuffle at Cromwell Saturday night occurred on the spur of the moment, according to Lynn's statement. The trouble arose when a shot was fired from Lynn's gun into the street in front of Murphy's Dance Hall, a place made notorious by recent investigations into lawlessness and vice of the boomtown. Lynn says the shot was accidental, and is borne out in his statement by Mrs. Rose Lutke, his companion at the scene of the killing. An eyewitness to the shooting, A.L. Sinclair, a tank builder, whose home is in Ponca City, who was standing on the curb opposite the dance hall, declares that the shot was intended. U.S. Forces on duty. T.E. Brentz, an officer of the Federal Prohibition Bureau in Oklahoma, and Lynn's immediate chief, was in Holdenville Sunday afternoon investigating the killing. Millard F. Meadows, Federal Prohibition Enforcement Director in Oklahoma, is expected to arrive later to conduct further inquiries into the circumstances surrounding Tilghman's death. A further investigation also has been ordered by Frank Lee, United States District Attorney at Muskogee, and will be conducted under his direction at Holdenville Wednesday morning. Were sworn enemies. Rumors circulating at Wewoka, where all 3 of Lynn's companions are being held in jail, are to the effect that Lynn and Tilghman were sworn enemies. W.A. Billingsley, county attorney of Seminole County, stated that it was a general understanding that both Lynn and Tilghman considered each other crooks. Some time ago, according to charges accredited to Lynn and verified by him later, 4 gallons of Jamaica ginger, which he had seized and turned over to Tilghman as evidence, disappeared. It was intimated that the ginger had been sold or turned over to bootleggers at Cromwell. Bootleggers protected? Tilghman is said to have made charges that Lynn was protecting a ring of bootleggers and advised investigators not to tell Lynn of the location of whiskey or stills, intimating that if such information was given, the federal officers there would be little chance of making an arrest. The two women and David Thompson, who is Sergeant in Battery C of the 18th Field Artillery at Fort Sill, were taken from the county jail of Hughes County by Sheriff Doyle of Seminole County. Doyle also demanded that Sheriff S.B. Turner of Hughes County turn over Lynn also to the county officials at Seminole County. United States Commissioner Park Crutcher held Lynn in Holdenville pending the investigation, hereupon instructions from United States District Attorney Frank Lee at Muskogee. Lynn's father, E.B. Lynn of Medill, who came to Holdenville to see his son Sunday, is a former deputy sheriff and peace officer around 1882 at Gainesville, Texas, and a special officer for the Cattle Association there. The father said Sunday afternoon that he had always raised his boy to be honest, but had never raised him to be a coward. He expressed confidence in his son's statement that the shooting was a matter of the first one to it. Bill Tilghman's body lay in state in the Capitol building. Governor Trapp remarked, "He died for the state." Bill is buried at Oak Park Cemetery in Chandler, Oklahoma. A month after Tilghman's death, a fire began in Cromwell. It raged and spread, burning down the majority of the town. Cromwell would never be the same. Some of the buildings were rebuilt, but with the oil boom declining, the town never recovered its previous size. The fire also meant an end to the lawlessness. The criminals of Cromwell were exiled by the flames. Wiley Lynn would be acquitted for the murder of Bill Tilghman. But despite the victory, his life began to decline. He was later arrested for intoxication and discharged of his duties as a federal officer. On July 17, 1932, in Medill, Oklahoma, Wiley Lynn engaged State Crime Bureau agent Crockett Long in a gunfight. Both Wiley Lynn and Crockett Long died from their wounds, as did a bystander, Rhodey Watkins. Both Wiley Lynn and Crockett Long are buried in the local Medill Cemetery.